election. There are and have been big Kamala rallies and lots of glee, not joy, but glee, as we talked about in the first hour of the show. But Kamala's event in Raleigh on Friday, and you can pick it up with a discerning eye. The video aesthetic of Kamala's events are different. It's very zoomed in. They put a blurry background on it. It's like they use different cameras for Kamala's events than Trump's events. It's very weird. Just has a different look. And this one in Raleigh was because it wasn't real. It was a TV set with 100 people behind her to make it look like there was a big crowd. And on Breitbart, there's an article of the actual set itself. It's a TV set. And you can see the whole thing zoomed back. And you're like, oh, like, that's a perfect metaphor for the PR propaganda campaign that is Kamala Harris, making her into something totally different than she really is to trick the American people. Matt Boyle is here. He's the guy, Breitbart News, Washington Bureau Chief. Matt, great to talk to you. The question, though, is all of this propaganda working for her so far?
I don't think so, right? I think she's plateaued, and I think she's starting to fall apart as a candidate, and I think that things are moving back the other way, and the numbers are showing it across the board in the polls, right? If you look at the battleground state polls that have come out over the last several days, over the last week or so, things have started swinging back big time Trump's way. Over the last week, we've seen polls out of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona that show Donald Trump leading all of the states or tied with Kamala Harris. If he's tied in the battleground states, he's going to win the states. Because Trump's always traditionally on the polls in a lot of these places. The polls that show Kamala leading in various places all have a variety of issues with them that show that they're oversampling Democrats, the New York Times Siena College has released polls the last 2 weekends. Last weekend they released Rust Belt polling. This weekend they released Sun Belt polling. In the places where Kamala Harris led last weekend in the Rust Belt states by 4. And this weekend they had Trump up 4 in Georgia, 2 in Nevada, but Kamala up 5 in Arizona, 2 in North Carolina. The New York Times actually admits that their own North Carolina poll has Kamala Harris's number as, quote, too hot. And that's a Nate Cohn from the New York Times that has his own ex-post about this. But in addition to that, if you look at the...
Yeah, we got a bunch of dumbasses in Raleigh and Charlotte, baby.
Who they vote for in 2020. Again, the places where Kamala Harris is in the lead in these New York Times Siena College polls, they way oversample the amount of people that voted for Joe Biden in those places. For instance, and so what happens here is Trump campaign, Tony Fabrizio, the pollster for President Trump, takes those numbers that we're talking about here and then applies a formula to it, and then you can figure out where they're really at. If you, in the case of Arizona's poll, if they actually got the recall vote right, which was like basically even, right? It was like a razor thin election. It was 11,000 votes in Arizona, something like that in 2020. If you apply the numbers there, Donald Trump's actually up a few points. And if you look at, there's other polls that have come out of Arizona over the last week that do show Donald Trump leading over Kamala Harris. So the point is that across the battleground states, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris, and heading into the Democrat National Convention. And the Democrats already blew their what would normally be a convention balance over the last several weeks because they formally made Kamala the nominee a couple weeks ago. Right? She rolled out her resume a week or two ago. So it's like they've kind of already given up the energy that you would get out of and coming from a convention. So the fact is that this is a terrible turn of events for Kamala Harris over the last week or so. And the tell that the Democrats know it, and the Kamala Harris team knows it, is that they had her off script yesterday. Right? They had her running around Pennsylvania with Tim on a bus, on a campaign bus, and the Kamala Harris team had her going out there and trying to do these moments in, like, you know, they show up in a gas station looking for Doritos, and they had to apparently film the moment multiple times, and they had one time where Tim Walz found the Doritos for Kamala Harris, and then another moment where Dougie Emhoff is what she calls her husband. She calls her husband Dougie, finds the Doritos for her. But I mean, nonetheless, the fact that they put her in an unguarded environment like a gas station store, convenience store, is particularly interesting because the campaign has just kept her on teleprompter for the entire time. But out there, she was off teleprompter multiple times, right? Like over the course of this little bus tour that her and Tim Walz did, if she goes off teleprompter where she made a couple of mistakes, and because of that, so again, they know they're losing. They know that things have started turning against them. The Democrats do, and that's why they start taking these risks where they push her out there. And the worse it gets for her, that's when she's going to have to start doing interviews, press conferences, and going further beyond these unscripted moments. But the point is that, so things have turned against them big time, and they know it, and they know they've lost the momentum.
So, I just want to emphasize this again. The question has been, can they vibe all the way to November and just run a basement campaign? And, excuse me, you're suggesting the fact that they've already shown signs of getting out of the basement, if you will, is proof that they know it's not where they can't. They can't vibe out and hide the entire time. So the question then is...
There was another big thing that happened last week, Mike, which is that President Trump went to North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, and he did his economic agenda speech. This was a huge moment that Donald Trump did the daytime speech, right, where he laid out his policy agenda, right? Like, so he laid out his economic policy. That forced Kamala Harris's hand, right? So she had to give her first, quote-unquote, policy-focused address on the economy on Friday in North Carolina, in Raleigh, in response to Donald Trump earlier in the week. Donald Trump's doing another policy-focused address later this week, focused on national security. During the day, on Wednesday, President Trump should continue doing this. He should do 2 to 3 of them a week, all the way to the election, where what he does is a daytime speech where he finishes off stage before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Short speeches, right? Like, as short as he can get them, one topic during the day, because then it forces the establishment media to cover it at night, and it gets into the primetime programming, and it also forces Kamala Harris' hand. So that was the first time we saw her have to come out and address economic policy, right? So what happened when she did? She made another mistake, right? What was that mistake? She came out and called for price gouging controls and basically communism, right? Like with regard to the home buyers markets and with regard to supermarket prices. And so that showed her hand again, right? So the more that the Trump campaign keeps setting the tone here over the course of the campaign, the more the Kamala Harris team is going to be stuck responding and making mistakes.
Yes, so Trump has always won with owning the OODA loop, the Orient, what's OODA stand for? Orient, here it is. Observe, orient, decide, and act. So he's always on the front of that and making everyone else be on the defense to him. And at the times that he's not ahead, he's not doing that. So he has, and you just described perfectly a moment when he was in the front. He acted first, they responded. And when he does that, he always wins. Love that.
Yeah.
What attacks do you think, or what characterizations of Kamala do you think will stick the best against her? Because I've heard people say, oh, Trump can't call her communist. That's mean, that's bad, that doesn't resonate with the people who we should be appealing with. What attacks do you think hit best?
Well, I disagree. I think that she actually is a communist. If you look at her actual economic policy, right? Like, I mean, she's a communist, she's a socialist, she's a radical extremist, right? Like, these are ideas that the mainstream of the Democrat Party, even the radical left of the Democrat Party doesn't like, right? Like, Barack Obama doesn't like these ideas, right? Like, so the idea, now look, they'll all play nice because she's their candidate now, right? Like, but the fact is that she is a radically extreme leftist, and far further left than we've ever seen in American history. So yeah, President Trump should call her a socialist and a communist, right? I mean, that's what she's proposing is communism, right? Like, I mean, the idea that the federal government would set prices for products, that's communism, right? That's socialism, that's communism. Sorry, like, I mean, you know, you should call a spade when, you know, when she decides to push communism, you are a communist, right? Like,
and
so
California, just to go a step further, California wants to own all the oil companies in California, all the oil rigs. They want to control all of that completely. Like, what is that if not communism?
Right. So again, I think that that's pretty straightforward. I also think that attacking her authenticity. You know, you saw Trump kind of lay the predicate for this a few weeks ago, and everybody in the establishment was tagging him, so on and so forth. When he was questioning her personal racial identity. I don't know if it's good to dwell on that, but the fact is that when you go into the fact that she changes, you know, anything she needs to be to anyone to try to win, and you know, so again, her heart of hearts, she's a communist and socialist, right? Like, so the extreme radical leftist, that's abundantly clear based off of the plethora of evidence in her, you know, her various stated positions, but the efforts of her and her campaign staff, etc., to try to cleanse herself of this radical history, it's inauthentic, right? Like, so she's inauthentic. In addition to being a radically left socialist communist, she's an inauthentic person. And it's abundantly clear. Like, so the idea that she's a communist, but she's also a chameleon, right? Like, so she, you know, so again, particularly interesting. I think there's multiple lines of attack against her that work, and I think that continuing to be aggressive is a smart thing. I think that the Trump team should keep the heat on her as much as possible, all day, every day, through the election. And I think that things are, like I said, as we laid out at the beginning there, I think that things have turned. Not only are they turning, they have turned. Like, I think that there was definitely a sugar high for Kamala in the immediate aftermath of Democrats switching to her, but I think that things have come back around now. And again, this is Donald Trump's election to lose. He is the leading candidate, and he is the X factor in this race. Donald Trump will either win this race or lose this race on his own, right? Like, it is his destiny to try.
Very good. By the way, oil refineries was the word I was looking for. The California Energy Commission proposes state takeover of oil refineries. That is communism.
Supports that one, right? She's probably on the board somehow.
Talking about Boyle, of course, here. What is your suggestion that to Trump's team this week, every day this week, on how to combat it, or kind of take, let him kind of ride it out the week and let him have it?
No, riding out weeks doesn't happen anymore. There's no doing that between now and the election. We're inside 80 days. I think that riding out weeks is stupid. That's how they initially tried to respond to Kamala becoming the candidate on various things when they were under attack. That's not going to work, right? Like, they need to be on offense all day, every day. So that means looking for opportunities throughout the course of the day to disrupt and change the narrative that the establishment and the left and the Democrats are going with. It would be, I don't know exactly what that means each day, but what they need to do is they need to find ways to change the conversation, steal the spotlight, move the pointed topics off of what people are talking about nationally, politically, off of what the Democrats want. Look, the Democrats are going to get 4 nights of, the media, just like they did at the Republican convention, are going to carry the primetime programming for the Democrats. But over the course of the week, there's things that the Republicans of the Trump campaign can do to disrupt that conversation and to steal the spotlight and change the conversation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they should break news throughout the week. The way you do that is you break news, right? So again, like I mentioned, Trump's doing a national security-focused speech I think it's on Wednesday, over the weekend. It's a really good thing. So that will help. I also think that, again, anything they can do to change the conversation and press the attack on it against them.
I would say that the lamestream actually did not cover fully the Republican convention. At least MSNBC didn't, but some others did. They didn't take like the Gold Star moms up there. It's a cutaway during some of the big moments. I doubt they'll do that this week. What's an example, Matt Boyle, you've seen lately of just the establishment being lame and affecting how we perceive what's really happening with the Trump campaign?
They really want to create infighting inside the Trump campaign where I don't think any exists, right? So one of the things that you see the establishment media aggressively pushing is this idea that Trump is upset with his advisors or with his VP selection or something like that. That's not true. Alex and I spent an hour or so with President Trump a little over a week ago. I can tell you he's in the best of moods. He is on, his game. He doesn't, and by the way, he's been asked this at 2 different press conferences that he did, right? He was asked it at Bedminster, and he was asked it, I think, at Mar-a-Lago. He's done press conferences in both the last 2 weeks, and he both times he's dismissed the establishment media narrative on this. I think he's extremely pleased with J.D. Vance. That's abundantly clear, and I think he's happy with his team. If he wasn't happy with his team, he would be making changes. The one thing he is doing is we're inside of 100 days, and he's brought other people into the campaign. That's a totally normal thing for a campaign to do in the home stretch, is to bring in other people. So yeah, he's brought in Corey Lewandowski, he's brought in Taylor Budowich and Tim Murtaugh, and all these other folks that have worked for him in the past, and they're kind of coming in to help with the home stretch. But I don't think that is a negative reflection on the people who are there. So be careful when you hear these anonymously sourced stories that, Trump is upset with his running mate or he's upset with his staff, there's going to be major change. That's not true. Not true.
The last question, how are you and how is Breitbart going to operate this week? What should we look forward to?
Yeah, look, our team is working pretty hard. We have a smaller team than we had at the RNC at the DNC in Chicago. We had a little conference call last night where I was working with all of these guys to plan out what they should be doing. We're going to be looking for interesting things, little quick things that we can get, but also protest is going to be huge. I think this week there's protests planned for, I believe, every day. For the Democrat National Convention. There's already been some in the last 24 hours or so. We've had some stories about this, and I think there's going to be more over the course of the week. But also, we'll see. One of the other things about Democrats is that they're Republicans, there tends to be a lot of celebrities at things like this, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see people like Robert De Niro, John Legend, and folks like that presenting on Chicago. So we'll be very heavy looking for celebrity coverage because all of Hollywood and the entertainment industry tends to be all linked to the Democrat Party. So that should be an interesting angle of things as well. But the other thing is that keep in mind that even though Kamala is now the Democrat nominee for president. By the way, there were never shenanigans like they were at the floor of the convention, so to speak, today. She's already the nominee, so it's totally nonsense, right? That DNC already did it via virtual 2 weeks ago. But this is a joke. They stole the vote from the party that's out there very low. They said they're out there to protect democracy, the Democrats, right? That's what they're running to do. Literally, 14 million Americans who voted for Joe Biden, right? Like, those 14 million people deserve to have their voice. They deserve to have their candidate. They deserve to have their votes counted. And the Democrat Party just lit that on fire, right? Like when they decided to steal the election from them and give it to Kamala in this coup. That's what this is. Those people should be ashamed of themselves, who engaged in this undemocratic process. And frankly, hopefully, people speak out against that this week. That would be one of the most interesting things. But, you know, to Democrats, there are no rules because they aren't people who believe in democracy. They're communists, right? Like, so they will literally break the rules as needed along the way, whatever their political purposes are.
Boyle, he's the Breitbart News Washington Bureau Chief, and we begin his show every Saturday from 10 to 1 Eastern right here on Space X and Patriot. Matt, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Keep it up. Let's take one call here, and then we'll go to Robert Greene's Creative Laws of Power. Get a good 30 seconds of clip of you here. John is in LA. What's up, John?
Hey, I just wanted to kind of elaborate on his point. I mean, Democrats are communists, and my opinion is that they will run towards communism blindly after this weekend over abortion. I mean, there can't be one sensible person on the planet that would think anything that she said Friday was anything but communism. And it's just, it's dumbfounding.
So you're saying they're so dedicated to abortion rights that they're willing to do anything to get there, even if it means accepting it.
I heard that, I could be completely different. I saw this on social media, so I saw this morning. There's a ban they're having out front of there, giving people vasectomies and abortion pills. And I don't care. I live in California. I'm very progressive as far as conservative, but I'm very progressive as far as that. You kind of believe in your body, whatever. But that to me is brainwashing at its finest. I mean, it's just people, you could go get a vasectomy in a van and believe that that's okay. Over voting for, you know, the one last chance that we have to save this country. You know, I'm not a huge Trump fan as far as the lobbying and the posturing goes. A lot of people aren't. But his policies are making sense now. He's making, when he's on teleprompter, he's telling you what his policies are. They're incredible. Yesterday, he wants to talk about your retirement. He said, what's the benefit of your retirement? He said he wants to stop all taxes on Social Security, which for me, I was like, 100% got my vote, never going to change. So,
by the way, John, that story about the van is true. That's an actual thing. So,
it is.
Yeah. But I appreciate your skepticism, like, and disbelief at insanity. John, I appreciate the comment. Thanks for listening to us bright and early in LA. I was in St. Louis. I was in St. Louis a couple months ago, and right on the border with Illinois and St. Louis, or Missouri, is like no abortion. But right over the bridge, you can get totally. So this is a mobile